I'm gonna be doing a video on sorry, I'm busy, on what some future superpowers might be. So now, right now we have the USA. No wait, I'm gonna make the USA purple for now. No, the USA is gonna be green. Sorry, this all has consequences later on. I want to explain this. That let's make the US turquoise, let's say. So I'm just plotting out our current world powers, which are the US and China. And I'm also going to give world power status to Russia because of the whole thing that happened with the election. I'm just gonna fill in like regions of influence. All of Latin America. And Russia. So I'm gonna give Belarus and the Ukraine. And I'm not coloring Europe for a reason. And Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and the Ukraine counts because like it's basically Russia's messing around in the Ukraine with pretty much impunity. So that's the thing. And now China's sphere of influence, which is basically North Korea, Mongolia, Dr. Congo. Yeah, there's quite a bit of power over there, and Laos and Pakistan. And let's go over some potential new world powers. So one thing that I've heard said is like that the EU may become a power. Wait, not the UK. Yeah. Just put it there. Put it down on the bookcase, please. Sorry about that. Yeah. Hang on. Just let me check something. Um. Hang on. Oh, also, Russia has influence over Serbia. Let's go to like the EU's influence. So the EU can influence in their influences Bosnia and Herzegovina, Albania, basically lots of the Balkans. They think Moldova. I'm not sure about Norway. The UK will certainly be under their influence, and not sure about. I think maybe Jordan. And now let's like go into. I saw on Wikipedia that some people think Brazil may become a superpower. And I'm assuming that it's like sphere of influence maybe like this or something. But I will tell you, there's no way Brazil's going to be a superpower. The whole corruption thing, manufacturing's moving out, and it's not really going to happen. Also, some people thought Japan would be a superpower. Wait, I'm going to color Japan. Let's see here. Yeah, this red. And no, the sun can be red. I'm gonna color Japan in white, and let's change like the background color to like blue because it's the sea. So Japan, and like in Japan's region of influence, I'd put like Korea. No, that's not good. Don't, no, stop. Background. Set the background back to white. Whatever, let's just do. No, it wasn't that. Sorry. Let's make Japan like purple. Say South Korea and Taiwan, I could imagine being a sphere of influence. And I'm just gonna go on to India, which some people think is gonna become a superpower. I can honestly see India becoming a superpower. Like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, maybe taking a bit of influence in over here. But what else do people think would be a superpower? Hang on. Yeah. US, Russia. Oh, yes, people used to think that Japan would become one. Okay, now I'm gonna go on to some of the things that I may hurt here. Let's start with Turkey, and this Turkey's influence would likely be like Armenia, and I don't even know where Turkey's influence would be. I seriously have no idea. Maybe somewhere in Africa? Like, I don't know. I can see its influence extending over to Armenia. And then I'm gonna go into, like, Iran. What color should it be? Oh, I'll make, like, Iran yellow, let's say. Its power already extends over Syria and maybe Lebanon. I know they sponsor Hamas, which is pretty good, but no. And I can honestly see Europe gaining power and becoming superpower. Basically, Saudi Arabia, their school of Islam may get allow them to take over the Middle East, but I honestly think that I'm checking something. Yeah, I honestly think that Australia will become a superpower because of the whole thing of what it's been doing in like the South Pacific. It's been gaining quite a bit of power. Might if it takes if its power if it like starts to dominate Australia, sorry, no, if it starts to dominate New Zealand, then it will be a superpower. But I'm going to talk about contenders for some spots. Oh, and if you're wondering why I didn't like do Switzerland, come on. Seriously. Switzerland is famously neutral. No one will ever have power over Switzerland. Because Switzerland just does its own thing. It's neutral. Let's see. I saw in Quora that, like, Nigeria might become one. Nigeria won't become one. Even though its economic power in Africa has been going up, and it is fighting out Boko Haram. I have no idea where its sphere of influence might be. Like, it's just that its political rise. I mean, Australia could become a superpower if it was more interventionist and raised its military budget. It could rival the USA. You'd be fighting a continent. Although it would have to compete with the USA for New Zealand. But having Australia as a superpower and an ally is in the national interests of the USA. But, yeah. There's something I've been wondering about, which is Norway has had a lot of oil money. But where would Norway dominate? Have to dominate Denmark and Sweden, which are in the EU. I honestly would consider the EU a more likely contender than Norway, who would have to get money from oil. But I'm gonna have to check something. China, 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 India, 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 India. Sorry, I'm just looking at something. Yeah, this guy thinks China's the only thing. China already is a world power. China. Yeah, China's neocolonialism. Yeah. Yeah, Brazil. I'm not sure. Sorry, I'm just checking to see if there's. Yeah, I've actually seen a lot of Japan stuff, and it's time I went over Vietnam. I personally believe Vietnam, if it opposes transactions in the South China Sea, like if it can draw Laos out of China's orbit and bring in like some African countries, there might actually be a few proxy wars. Which, like, if the US ends up fighting if any two countries are fighting a proxy war, they've got to be powerful. Like, I don't think the EU has fought any proxy wars. I mean, like, the US is kind of fighting a proxy war against Saudi Arabia in Syria against ISIS, but I think ISIS is like their own thing. I've also been seeing a lot of stuff about Germany. I personally believe Germany will lead the European Union. Germany and France together. If France and Germany unified into one country, they could rule the world. France has nukes. Germany has an incredible industrial potential. I mean, when Germany was first formed, it had it was very strong. It like World War I, Germany almost won that. If the US, it was seriously up in the air. The US could have come in on either side or not at all. It was likely that the Germans would have won that. What's this? Hang on. India, Iran. Oh, I'm seeing Israel. I honestly think Israel is past its height. The 6 Days War was when it was most powerful. Just basically went straight through Egypt and Lebanon, but it's not going to be. It's past its height. It's gone into Syria and Lebanon and Egypt and has had quite a bit of power there. Yes. But it's just not quite powerful enough. In my view, it's not going to become a superpower. Even if it's a nuclear power. It hasn't really. Where's it tried to go into? Syria and that. and it's not had all that much success. Whereas I think Australia is more likely, way more likely than Israel, because it's had power in like the whole thing that happened with refugees. It's about how Australia was basically able to use other countries for that. That's kind of scary, and it shows how strong it could be. Israel. Here's this. Russia. Yeah. Again, stuff about China being basically surrounded. Because, like, I'll explain this a little bit. You look where China's sphere of influence is: Laos, North Korea, Mongolia, Pakistan, and some places in Africa. They do have a lot of power in Africa. But I still think China is going to be a superpower because money. These people don't understand the power of money. Yeah, so it looks like China has a lot of EU, India, Russia, Japan. Yeah, it's not going to be Japan. However popular or anime is, well, it may have the media influence of and cultural power that can rival the US. So does the UK. The UK is not a superpower anymore. I mean, Britain spread its culture. Although, I must admit, Britain's culture really was through imperialism, and Britain used to be a superpower. As I'm British and from a place that is no longer from his former superpower, I don't see Israel becoming a superpower. China already is. While it will have to overcome Japan, which would be a major obstacle. The reason why they've been doing stuff in the South China Sea over here. Wait, what was that? Oh, is that so? China and the East China Sea and stuff. That's because the South China Sea is basically the only place where they can project their power. Like, I mean, like, they're obstructed everywhere. You have Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, Malaysia. Whereas the US, you just have open ocean. Brazil, open ocean. But Brazil won't become a superpower, as I said, and you have, like, direct access to the Mediterranean, Turkey, Cyprus, and while I must admit, Turkey's actions in northern Cyprus are kind of impressive, they've not been able to fully control the island. I mean, like, the USA, at its height during the Cold War, toppled Chile, Peru, like, has done tons of stuff in the yeah, in Latin America. Whereas, although Turkey in the U.S. has like done like the how how he base how Erdogan like basically attacked U.S. protesters. Uh, that was kind of impressive, but I think Turkey is going to become like sorta its own thing. Like, I think it wants to compete with the US because I think their veto on Austria joining NATO was like, I don't know, I think it's kind of seemed like they are kind of going after the US's power. Because the US is, let's face it, a very strong country. And they're drifting they are drifting closer to Russia. In Syria, let's just face it, the EU's superpower. The election basically shifted their direction straight away to the EU, while Turkey isn't really, sort of slowly meandering around. It's like, for other countries, it seems that like they have to flip their alliance back and forth. Whereas with Turkey, it's just sort of like meandering around, like sort of like on Russia's side. I would consider Turkey to be like a power in that, like, it's not in anyone's orbit. It's kind of by itself. Like, I mean, with Donald Trump basically distancing himself from Europe, it's kind of a great test for like the strength of the EU on its own. The EU's doing pretty well on its own, I must say. So, Iran cannot hold up against like Europe, the US, Russia, and China putting pressure on it. But let's say China, Russia, the EU, and Iran, and all of these countries I've colored threw up embargoes. The US would still be able to survive alongside with Mexico, Canada, and Latin America. Because basically the new world would be, well, I mean, Brazil might not really cause them that much trouble. Mexico's industrial strength along with the Great Lakes could really, I mean, the US is self-sufficient as far as energy is concerned. But there's one thing I want to discuss. The west coast of the United States, without seceding, just sort of like doing its own thing. Not the rest of the US, just the west coast. Because Brown in the US and the west coast. So I'm talking about like particularly California is going on ahead with like the Obama era stuff that Donald Trump's put out stopped across the rest of the US, but California is still doing it. So California is basically standing against Donald Trump. And well, the corporations of the West Coast, if they align with the governments, I mean, you have Microsoft and Apple, and they like do most of the world's computing stuff. Like, imagine if all of a sudden, like, uh, Windows and Apple just shut down service to a country. That would destroy that country. I mean, they'd have to go to Linux. Linux. Not that there's anything bad about that, but and it should be used more. It's just that you can't get that on a phone. If Samsung joined in, wait, Samsung I think is based in Japan. So yeah, that's what I was gonna say there. And I'm just gonna check for a little bit. China won't become superpower. Yeah, it says like Brazil, Russia, India, China. Okay, I have another list here. This one has on it Argentina, which might be able to dominate Chile, but no, maybe like someplace in Africa, but I honestly, I've heard Argentina has like a gaming industry, but I don't know much about its other industries. Brazil, I already covered. Chile, I honestly cannot see Chile becoming a power. I mean, naval strength is a major thing of what makes a superpower. Like, US is so powerful because you have the Pacific and Atlantic. Pacific and Atlantic. Their access to both is unobstructed. Australia, you have Indian and Pacific through here. China has to be land-based. Although the Mongols were very powerful, China's probably just going to end up like the Mongols were, rather powerful on land, but unable to project power over the sea. Chile may have power in the Southern Pacific, but like Brazil, I know has an aircraft carrier. It may be able to like have some power in Africa. They'll have to sail under Cape Horn or through Gibraltar, which I don't think would be all that easy, maybe. But well, we might be able to like get some stuff in Africa. The Britain at its height, like basically, if you had a coastline, you were under British influence. Okay, let's see what else this says. Chile, I think same thing as Brazil, like the Philippines, maybe in like some like islands around here, but I don't know. Malaysia. Malaysia isn't going to be a superpower. It has like this regional possible bubble. It's not even like certain. It's like got like a regional possible bubble, and like it's just got the South China Sea. Or is it the Philippine Sea? Like this sea right here, and like other than that, it's bordered by Indonesia. It would have to gain influence in Indonesia. And oh yeah, they also said Indonesia, which is more likely than Malaysia. It but it would only be able to gain power in like the Pacific and this thing. And it's not and it if it had a strong navy, it would be able to become a world power. And Mexico not as much. It's got not as much access to the Pacific. Like it's just got the Gulf of Mexico to the Atlantic. Pacific maybe, but like you have Hawaii over here and U.S. power. They would have to unseat the U.S., which might be possible, but with the drug war and stuff, it's got enough problems at home. That's not gonna happen. South Korea. It could be destroyed by North Korea with artillery. No, that's not gonna happen. Taiwan. It's gonna be China instead of Taiwan. Thailand. This is kind of interesting, like within like the Southeast Asia. But Thailand, I don't really know that much about it. But let's take a look at its coastline. Yeah. It's got Indonesia, Burma. Wait, what's this country? And India. And then it's got like a tiny bit where it can send its navy through, which could easily be blocked by Vietnam or Malaysia. So I'm just going to reset the zoom and Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Mexico, Turkey. I already went over. So this person suggests like Egypt. Let's take a look at Egypt. Yeah, I might have a couple of problems with that. Egypt, I mean, it's not the Bronze Age anymore. Egypt used to be a superpower. It was like one of the first few there was. I'm still busy.
Tom, do your laundry basket, please.
I'm kind of busy.
Sorry, I need your laundry basket.
Sorry about that. South Africa. I think Trevor Noah put it pretty well. That Zuma kind of wrecked it. But, yeah. I can't see South Africa really becoming a power. Though it might. Although, I do think maybe Nigeria. But I honestly don't know when it comes to Africa. India. China. Basically just seeing China. Hmm. Hmm. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, China. So this thing mentions Netherlands and Belgium. I'm going to dismiss Belgium, because unless he means the EU, like, they're all in the EU. Yeah. South Africa. China, India, Brazil. So like Spain has a couple of. I'm looking at number of aircraft carriers here, but yeah, the U.S. has too many more than any other country. So Italy apparently has a couple of aircraft carriers, but they're too weak, too economically weak to build all that many. France has one. France might be able to increase power. The UK has two, but like the US has tons more. And the US has so many that like there's a Hornet where you can like literally sleep on it, like it's become a tourist attraction. So the US, I don't know the way the trends are going as far as that's concerned, but Australia I know has the potential. China, America, leaving Brazil, UK. This thing says the UK is going to become powerful, but we had our run. No, the UK. If things in Spain get bad enough, I don't know, maybe with Catalonia, Britain might be able to make a comeback. But given what happened in Egypt, it's going to be hard. Wow, it's predicted to narrows. Though, like, this might have been made before. This I'm looking at might have been made before Brexit. No, it was made after. Interesting. Britain would need to rebuild its navy if it was going to become a superpower. Like, attack. I honestly maybe like use the Commonwealth or something, but like, Britain certainly has like the cultural power to rival the US. The BBC is a very large corporation, and I mean like, have you ever seen Doctor Who or something? Arguments against China. Is this one about economic? Where's that thing I found? Sorry about this. UK, Germany. I already went over. Japan, US, China. Brazil, South Korea, Germany, Japan, Russia, France, China, UK, India. Yeah. Gonna go these things. China, then India. Proximity to weak states. Let's see. Yeah, I think that is probably very important. Because, like, you see China next to North Korea and Mongolia. And the EU's next to, like, Bosnia, Serbia, and a bunch of countries in the Balkans, which were kind of devastated by the Yugoslav wars. Moldova, and yeah, and like you have tons of stuff over there. Turkey is like one of the rich Middle Eastern countries. Like Saudi Arabia could gain power. Like Iran's too poor. Yeah, weak neighbors like the Maldives. Oh, and in the South Pacific, why else? I think Australia's going to become a superpower. You have like a bunch of like weak South Pacific countries, which could be used to like, gain a strength and stuff. Nigeria apparently is worth considering. So, I'll yeah, I think that like these countries may be a bit weak, but after Nigeria fights off Boko Haram, they may be able to gain power. Start expanding, throwing their weight around a little bit. Nigeria could become a power, but my money is still on Australia. Kenya. Is this a joke? Do I guess it's because South Sudan's nearby? Uganda? I don't know. Indonesia, Brazil, Ecuador. Seriously, Ecuador. It's right next to like the most pro-US country in South America is Colombia. The US could easily stop a growth of Ecuador. And Ecuador isn't all that much of a pro-US country, so I think that the US would actively work against it. Against its power. Indonesia. More likely than that. It could then Malaysia. It could actually, although it would have to compete with Australia, and it couldn't even go into East Timor. Like, it would stop there. It's a rather weak country, so no. Congo. No, it's not going to be Congo. That is already under the influence of China, rather highly. Okay, no, not Congo. Australia, yeah. France, Malaysia, Australia. Wait, is that Austria, it says? Yeah. Oh, this thing I found mentions something important. Solar power. Australia is perfect for solar power. Put solar panels in the outback. You basically have all the energy you need. Like, although the Sahara would work, I mean, Morocco and Algeria are like too close together. Morocco. With the Western Sahara thing, if it does well enough with Catalonia, it backs Catalonia and it gets lucky, that could pay off. It could be able to get the Canaris Islands, and just don't see it. It's kind of like Argentina during the Falkland War. It didn't work. Superpowers. Most things. Indonesia, Nigeria, yeah. Basically common wild card answers. I will still say on Australia because of like their influence. Russia is gonna become a superpower over cyber, and I'm gonna go into. While I'm waiting for this thing to load on my phone, I'm gonna go into a couple of random countries. Let's start with North Korea. The answer to that is nope. There's nowhere it can project its power. The US could wipe it off the map. It would be most likely to cause World War III, but it is squarely under the influence of China. Largely, like, China has so much economic power over it. If China says something, North Korea could do it if they did it well. Let's go over Morocco. Wait, I already did, and hang on. Indonesia, I think, might have some validity. India, I know. I'm gonna go on to a random one and say Madagascar. Wait, South Africa's neighbors are kind of weak, but Zuma messed things up. Madagascar could take power. I mean, it's an island. It's rather powerful. It could spread onto Mozambique, become a power on Africa. And I'm gonna go into something most people don't talk about. A state in East Africa that may unite. I think it's something. No, it's not Ethiopia. It would look something like that. No, I think it's this. Yeah, or something like that. It is an interesting idea. It wouldn't be a superpower though, even if it got strong enough. Although it might. Like, it has in it South Sudan, which is the country I would nominate as least likely to become a superpower. It's not. It's so undeveloped. Yeah. Algeria can't do Western Sahara, so no. I want to cover a few more countries, so bear with me for a minute. India, US. Oh, shut up. Interesting. This thing shows India above the US. Pakistan. Alright, I guess I'm going to go over Pakistan. Pakistan will not become a superpower. India is more powerful. India's space program is way better, and what really gave the USA dominance over the Soviet Union was space. And India has that over Pakistan and could beat China. So I'm going to say no, not Pakistan. Yeah, the government's corrupt. Looked down on by literally everyone. They stayed strong. Yeah, they say, yeah, this says also that it's surrounded by 3 powers. Also, Russian influence in Tajikistan. Turkey might be able to gain some influence in Turkmenistan. But it's like, you got Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. Then you have Turkey, India, and Iran. Not to mention Oman, and a tiny coastline. Rather, probably semi-strong military and nuclear weapons, but surrounded by a few nuclear-armed states. I'm gonna say not likely. Japan, Russia, Brazil, Canada. Global warming may make Canada a superpower, I've heard. I'm going to talk about Canada. Alright, Canada. Oh, about the EU thing, I forgot to do something. I meant, yeah, you have I forgot to mention that French Guiana and Greenland are both members of the EU because Greenland's part of Denmark and French Guiana is just France. It's part of France. It's not like Puerto Rico, US. It's just France. Like how, did you know Corsica's France? Yeah. So is French Guiana, by the way. So, and this may mean that Brazil may face opposition in South America from France, which is kind of interesting. Canada, well, I think Canada it would have to build up a navy and compete with Denmark, which is basically compete with the EU and Russia for control. Which is something I don't want to think about. Like, global warming would increase shipping through the Northwestern Passage. But that would only be useful as long as Europe is powerful, and Europe would be able to do it through bits closer to Greenland, which would minimize Canada's benefits. Canada doesn't have all that many resources up north. I mean, if Nunavut may secede if that happens, and Nunavut would become strong, which is interesting. Got tons of gold, it says. Arctic melting. No.
Are you doing homework? Like guitar practice?
Wait, I'm in the middle of something. Sorry about that. Britain. Okay, yeah. This is a voting list. So, San Marino. No. Uh. Mexico. That. This basically shows like USA, Canada getting more powerful, China, and Russia. Just wondering. Um, this thing is arguing against Russia. And let me say again, there's all this Siberian land, and influence on the election just showed that it can project its power onto the United States. They've mastered cyber warfare, and unless like some other country comes out as their equal, they're gonna die. They're gonna be very powerful. Russia. I'm gonna check. See what this says. This looks interesting. Okay, so go on. Finland, part of the EU. So I'm going to count that under EU. Nigeria, I already discussed. Mongolia. Mongolia is past its height. It's not bouncing back. Wait, is this Mongolia? It's on or Nigeria? Okay. Apparently there's like a ton of gold there. But it may be able to. This is interesting and it should be reconsidered, but Russia to the north, China to the south. And if we zoom in here, it may look like it borders Kazakhstan. Let's zoom in a lot. Yep, don't quite border. Vietnam, I already went over. This thing says Switzerland. Switzerland's not gonna. Bangladesh. Bangladesh! No, not Bangladesh. Don't know what happened here. Why is it zoomed in on Canada? Sorry. So I guess I'm just gonna have to scroll around. So, no, this basically says no. New Zealand, vanishing red tape. No, it's gonna be Australia in the area. Taiwan, seriously, yeah, Taiwan's good, but no. It's not what. The Chinese Civil War is still going on. Taiwan is losing. Latvia. Yeah, I guess. Okay, yeah, good sources for copper apparently in Chile. But it's either Chile has a pretty good long coastline, which is good. But like when it comes to, I just don't think it can project that much power. Its military strength is not high enough for it to become a superpower. So, India. So this guy says EU. So yeah, this is done. Goodbye.